What's up, board games? It's your boy Efka, and I had a Shania Twain song stuck in my head for the last 2 months, and let me tell you, that don't impress me much. Another thing that don't impress me much, narrative-driven games with the storybooks and reams of text and lots of dice rolling that's frequently antithetical to the experience. Oh, don't get me wrong, me and narrative board games, we spent many a wistful summer frolicking in the fields and watching the sunset and whispering wishes upon falling stars. But those weren't falling stars, they were big, burning meteorites of clunky mechanisms, poor storytelling and unsatisfying writing. Painful meteorites. That's as far as I can carry this analogy. So imagine my delight when I hesitatingly opened Forgotten Waters and all I found inside was fun, laughter, good times, and fun. Did I mention fun? This isn't fun. This is just a flashlight. In Forgotten Waters, you'll take on the role of a pirate, a naughty nautical, and set off on a grand sea adventure in pursuit of whatever ridiculous goal you've been given on your character sheet. Some of these are really weird. Assassin pirate? Sure. Grifter pirate? Yeah, I get that. Debater pirate? Okay, that's a little bit. Thespian pirate? Now you're just, oh come on. There's no such thing as a safety pirate. This is ludicrous. Stop that. What is a culinary pirate even supposed to be? And thus Forgotten Waters turns the silly dial all the way to 11 from the get-go, and as things continue, it just keeps smashing it. Moments after choosing a character sheet, you'll find yourself unable to suppress a smile, because not only are you asked to fill in Mad Libs to personalize your backstory, but you'll quickly realize your friends' choices are equally ridiculous, whimsical, and will turn the most cynical amongst you into a laughing, crying mess. Forgotten Waters is a cooperative game, following Plaid Hat's Crossroads Games series, massively popularized by Dead of Winter and tarnished by the lackluster sequel Gen 7. Saying that, it does retain a sprinkling of the previous entry's semi-cooperative nature. Whilst you lose together and thus work together and succeed together, you'll each get a different outcome based on how many stars you manage to color in the constellation on your character sheet. Each of your pirates will also be assigned a role on the ship, so you could be the bosun, the first mate, the ship's scribe, etc. You could even be assigned multiple of these, and likely will if you're not playing with the full complement of 7 players. Is that right? 7 players? Is there something wrong with me? Who cares about ship duties? That stuff is for chumps. Or chimps, if you could afford to staff your ship with chimps. Thankfully, this role simply means you'll be in charge of tracking a relative statistic. For example, the first mate will track the crew stat. If your ship loses some crew, the first mate will move the token down. Simple. The rest of your time will be spent on adventures in the glorious ring-bound tome of sandy beaches, stormy seas, and forgotten waters. This is how it works. When you start the game, you will select one of the 5 included scenarios. The scenario will then tell you how to set up this map so that it instead looks something like this. Then you'll get a narrative introduction read to you by the app.
A place full of honorable merfolk, powerful witches, towering monsters, and legendary
I feel
pirates.
awkward making this stop right now, but it goes on for so long. Then it'll ask you to turn to a page in this book, and that's where the real joy begins. And by joy, I of course mean a 40-second timer. As soon as this timer kicks off, each player in infamy order will have to place their pirate figure on one of the action spaces in the book. Here's a problem. You have no idea what any of these do, but first things first, I'd like to address people in the board gaming sphere with a condition known as timeophobia. This is of no consequence. In all of the games that I've played so far, each featuring a multitude of timed rounds, not once did we actually run out of time because the goal of the timer isn't to frustrate you. Instead, Forgotten Waters hopes that whilst you're busy deciding whether it is thematically you want to swab the deck or deck the squab, you won't peek behind the sail and see what these actions do mechanically. Why? Good question. First, let's look at an example of a standard action. Let's say I'm trying to steer the ship. Some actions have a chance of failure, and require a skill check. Normally you would first get a permanent boost towards the relevant skill, coloring it in your character sheet. If the space you colored in had a star, you also get to color one of those in your constellation. In this case, because I was steering the ship, I would get to upgrade my navigation stat and then roll a die and add my navigation skill to the result. And that's it. Sure, there's some extra rules like reroll tokens, which will let you reroll a die, or misfortune tokens, which will make you roll the die twice and use the worst result. And then there's treasure that will give you a permanent boost to relevant stats or give you a unique ability. But that's all the rules you need to know to start playing, which might make you wonder just how mechanically robust is this system? To which I say, stop it. Stop wondering. The one thing that Forgotten Waters does very well is finally reconcile the fact that the ethos of Plaid Hat's storytelling-based games frequently try to fit too much into a package that can't really support it. This was particularly evident in Gen 7, where in the latter stages of the campaign, narrative-wise, you were having space fights with lasers, but mechanically you were reorganizing your warehouse. So yes, mechanically Forgotten Waters is as light as a feather, and thank God it is. I mean, you know me, you know I like my crunchy systems. But if you ever watched anyone stream a board game, including our own streams on twitch.tv/nopunincluded, you'll know just how unpiratey it all feels. We're used to board games that want us to consider maths and find the smart path, but that's just not what a swashbuckler does. A swashbuckler mounts a cannonball and rides it as a propellant towards the next ship. The moment they stop to consider the probability of failure, they stop being a pirate and start being a Eurogamer. Here your inner C-3PO isn't given a chance to pipe up and seize you with indecision, and your reward is always a delightful surprise. Frequently outcomes of your chosen action will give you a resource, or maybe even a treasure, or if you're really lucky, you'll get to read passage something something something, and these are zany, laugh out loud funny, and most importantly, unpredictable. I've played this game to death, and every time I'm meant to read a passage, I still have no idea what to expect. To make this featherweight framework work, a game needs a robust foundation of good writing, and obviously good writing is a subjective term. I think Forgotten Waters has some of the best writing in any board game made so far. But that's just my opinion, and opinions aren't very good at conveying emotional resonance. So I had Elaine make me a Forgotten Waters mood board. The problem is I forgot to ask her what any of this is meant to be. I think this is Pirate Karl Marx, and that's... So, let's just move away. I guess what I'm trying to say is that every ounce of text has been injected with wit, whimsy, brightness, and bravado. The writing in Forgotten Waters is a weightless anchor that lets the ship charge full wind ahead, which makes it feel effortless, which of course means that to make it feel effortless, a lot of effort went into making it feel effortless, and I've now successfully confused myself. But Efka, I hear you say, the last thing I need in my life right now is Steve's post-free pint attempt at doing that voice. His efforts are less likely to make me feel pirate and more likely to make me feel pirate. Don't worry, even here Plaid Hat has you covered, because in a genuinely rare move for board games, there's voice-over narration for everything. The narration itself, 12 out of 10. Every pirate cliche loaded into the app, from fake Irish to fake Scottish to everyone's favorite, fake English. Call blimey, governor! Arr! Line after line, the voice acting is guaranteed to make people all over the world delighted, and people in the British Isles moan with misery, which is a win-win for everybody. I want to be very careful here, because I think all the people who put their voices into this game did a fantastic job, and the narration itself is a beautiful addition. I hope other publishers take notice and use it as an example of how to do it right. But I do have one point of criticism, and that's to do with the narration editing. Frequently, the cuts were so precise and so sharp that it felt less like I'm listening to a cohesive narrative and more like I'm listening to a cassette boy collage. And that's a problem when you're trying to get immersed and have ADD. And this attention to detail isn't just evident through the, once again, very impressive narration. Struggling to come up with a pirate name? Don't worry, at the back of this rulebook, there's an included pirate name generator that has so far failed at not producing the best pirate name every time I've rolled the dice. In our very first game, Elaine didn't just roll a character called McMuffins the Chaste, but her first narrative encounter immediately put McMuffins the Chaste into a salacious tryst, which inevitably reduced her character's name to just McMuffins, the Madonna of the pirate world. I would also be remiss not to mention some of the best flavor text on cards I've seen. I don't care how many times I draw this same card and read this same joke, it's still funny. It's funny because it's true. But my favorite bit is the Mad Libs. It's such a minor addition, but it speaks volumes about Plaid Hat's understanding of what's just not fun about story games and what is. I hate reading text in board games because it's never good. But here I get to personalize the text myself. So of course I'm going to write in Jeff Kornberg when the game asks me to come up with a dumb name. And now I'm actually looking forward to reading the rest of this story text. What sorcery is this? Now let me tell you how much Forgotten Waters costs, which is £45, which is an unbelievably generous price point considering there's 5 scenarios inside, which played at a fair pace gives you about 10 play sessions. Now let's assume that unlike me you have 6 friends, which brings you to a price per person per game cost of 45 divided by 10 is 4.5. Further divide that by 7 and you get 0.642. But if you account for the time spent by the owner reading the rulebook, which of course means we have to create a share system. We must consider the probability of drinks damage, especially 7 Stevens times 2 divided 72 Australian dollars and 57 cents. I should have stopped at 0.64. Told you I have ADD. Which means that no matter what I say for the rest of this video, Forgotten Waters deserves an undeniable recommendation. But I cannot stop myself from now telling you that somehow in this nearly prophetic sublime design vision, Plaid Hat Games managed to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory. I will 100% vouch for the play experience in the first 2 Forgotten Waters scenarios. I mean, sure, this game isn't perfect, and mechanically I glossed over a lot of criticism because criticizing this game mechanically is sort of missing the point. A fact that I'm sure some viewers will lambast this video for. Although I suspect they're the same type of people who say things like, it's not a game, it's an activity. But what strikes me as ultimately misguided in this box is Plaid Hat's approach to difficulty and how they implement it. Let's get something out of the way first. I have no bias towards games being easy or being hard. I think difficulty is just another tool in game design. And if used right, it can make a game much better. If a game experience can benefit from repetition by reinforcing mastery, that's a thing a lot of people enjoy. But I can't help but feel like the designers of Forgotten Waters just went, well, it's scenario free, so the ancient bylaws of board game design dictate that we must make it harder. That's my payback for the fake English. Which, of course, in a game system mostly governed by rolling a die and seeing if you get the thing, translates into tedious unfairness, and you mostly not getting the thing. This notion pervades through all scenarios, but at least in scenarios 1 and 2, it happens towards the end, which is a fine and natural conclusion. In scenario 3, however, there's all the chance that you'll get shafted right at the beginning, which is tedious when it happens because it's long and protracted, and it's tedious after it's done because if you did manage to survive, you'll be so battered you might as well change your pirate name to Chip Shop Sausage. And now it's time for the COVID-19 disclaimer. Hooray! Playing with one other person is a luxury actually some of us can't even afford, and playing with 6 other people? So why would you buy this game right now when the minimum player count is free? Here's where Plaid Hat comes through in every way imaginable. Not only did they develop a 2-player and a solo variant that in some instances actually works better than the normal game, but they also created a remote play system that is the next best thing to how we used to play games in, what by now feels like 2012. It's not even that complicated. All you have to do is set up a Zoom meeting where you share your webcam, but then also screen share the app itself so other people can hear the narration, and then call in into your own Zoom meeting with your phone, not your computer, so that your phone's camera could be pointed at the map so people can see the changes that are happening on it, and then have another web page open where you actually play the game. Like I said, simple. Here is where I admit that I've only played 3 of the 5 scenarios, including in this box. Normally, I like to get an idea of most things that a game has to offer. But this time, I couldn't bring myself to play more. Partly because scenario 3 was a bit of a letdown, but mostly because I wanted to save something for myself. I've been enjoying Forgotten Waters so much that I would have loathed to see it finish as I rushed through the game's scenarios just for the sake of completeness. And if that's not a recommendation, I don't know what is. This video was sponsored by Skillshare, the website with thousands of tutorials by industry professionals on almost any subject imaginable. For less than $10 a month, you can gain access to some of the best advice, no matter your interests. In an effort to make my living space a little bit brighter, I decided to learn about houseplants by watching Happy Houseplants by botanist Chris Satch. Chris instructed me to start off with just one houseplant. Naturally, I took his advice to heart. I think one of them's trying to eat me, please send help. I found videos on everything from dog training. Bissy, do an impression of French Stewart. It's not exactly working, is it? To board game design, including from industry professionals whose names I've recognized. Best of all, the first 1,000 of you to click the link in the description will get a 2-month free premium membership so you can explore your creativity and your houseplants. Finally, No Pun Included would absolutely not be possible without the support of our Patreon backers who've gone beyond the call of duty and helped us reach our goal of being sustainable. Thank you so much to patrons like Michael J. Lewis who make this thing float. If you would also like to contribute to some of the best board game media in the world, we would really appreciate it. Our next goal is to move No Pun Included into a studio, and with your support, we can make that happen. Thanks again. Bye.